One more year and we'll have that idiot fooled completely. See you at the new apartment tomorrow morning. I found that message on my wife's tablet on Christmas morning in Tokyo, the same morning I'd sold my gaming PC to buy her a diamond necklace. I contacted the local tax authority about the apartment she'd been secretly buying with my savings. The property got seized within 72 hours, and her boyfriend kicked her out that same night. Hey viewers, hit subscribe. This is about what happens when you trust the wrong person with your entire life. I troubleshoot IT problems remotely for a living. Spend my days walking people through password resets and explaining why turning it off and on again actually works. You'd think someone who fixes broken systems for a living would have noticed when his own life was completely fucked. Christmas Eve in Tokyo. I'd been living here for 8 months. Ever since Elowen convinced me we should make the move together. She'd talked about it for years. How Japan was her dream. How we could build a better life there. How romantic it would be to start fresh in a new country together. I'd saved for 5 years to make it happen. Sold my car, liquidated my retirement account, worked double shifts at the help desk. We got married 6 months before the move, mostly for visa purposes, but I'd proposed anyway because I loved her and it felt right. The apartment we were renting in Tokyo was small. Studio, basically. Elowen worked at an English language school, taught kids during the day while I worked nights from home to match US time zones. We didn't see each other much, but I told myself it was temporary. We were building something. That Christmas Eve, I was sitting at my desk finishing up a ticket when I realized I hadn't gotten Elowen anything meaningful yet. We'd agreed to keep it simple this year. Money was tight after the move. But I wanted to do something special. I had this gaming PC I'd built before we left the States. Custom water cooling, RGB everything, the whole setup. It was the last piece of home I had left. The thing that kept me connected to my friends back in California when the loneliness got bad at 3 a.m. during my shift. I listed it on a local marketplace that afternoon. Sold it within 2 hours for 180,000 yen. Enough for a really nice diamond necklace I'd seen her looking at a few weeks earlier. The irony wasn't lost on me. Selling the thing that kept me sane to buy jewelry for someone who'd barely touched me in 3 months. But I was optimistic. Maybe this would be the gesture that brought us back together. Maybe she was just stressed about work. Christmas morning, I woke up around 10 a.m. Elowen was already up, sitting on the couch with her tablet, drinking coffee. She looked happy, more relaxed than I'd seen her in months. "Merry Christmas," I said, shuffling over to make myself coffee. She barely looked up. You too." I'd hidden the necklace box in my desk drawer. Was planning to give it to her over breakfast. Had this whole thing planned where I'd talk about how proud I was of us for making the move, how this was just the beginning. My phone buzzed. Email from the Marketplace app. The buyer wanted to confirm pickup details for the PC. I opened my laptop to respond, but it was dead. Battery completely drained. "Can I borrow your charger?" I asked Elowen. "Mine's somewhere in the closet." "Just use my tablet," she said, not looking away from whatever she was watching. "It's on the table." I picked it up. The screen was still unlocked, open to her email, and that's when I saw it. A message from someone named Silas Thorne. Subject line, "Merry Christmas, beautiful." I should have put the tablet down. Should have respected her privacy, but something in my gut twisted, and I opened it. The message itself was just a digital Christmas card. Animated snow, cheesy music. But the text underneath made my blood stop. "One more year and we'll have that idiot fooled completely. See you at the new apartment tomorrow morning. Can't wait to wake up next to you without having to sneak around." I read it 3 times. Idiot, fooled, new apartment. I looked up. Elowen was still on the couch, scrolling through her phone, completely oblivious. My hands were shaking. I opened her banking app. We had each other's passwords for emergencies. She'd insisted on it when we moved. Said it was important for couples to be transparent. The account that showed up wasn't the joint one we used for rent and bills. It was a personal account I didn't know existed. Transactions going back 23 months. Automatic transfers from our joint savings. 150,000 yen every month. Like clockwork. Going to something called Minato Property Management. I did the math in my head. That was roughly $27,000 total. Money I'd been sending from the States before I moved, thinking it was going into our shared emergency fund. She'd been using it to make down payments on an apartment. For her and someone named Silas. I set the tablet down carefully, stood up, walked to the bathroom, locked the door, sat on the edge of the tub and tried to remember how to breathe. When I came out 10 minutes later, Elowen was putting on her coat. "I'm going out," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Last-minute Christmas shopping. I'll be back later." She left before I could respond. I spent the next hour going through everything, her email, her messages, her photos. I know it was a violation of privacy. I know it was wrong. But I needed to understand what the hell was happening. Silas Thorne was a Japanese guy she'd met at a language exchange event 2 years ago, before we got married, before we even talked seriously about moving. The messages went back that far. Thousands of them. Plans for their future together. Her complaining about me, how boring I was, how I didn't understand Japanese culture, how I was just convenient for the visa process. There were photos of them together at restaurants I couldn't afford. Hotel rooms I didn't want to think about. Her wearing clothes I'd never seen before. And then I found the email from the immigration office, dated 3 weeks after I'd arrived in Japan. Elowen had filed to cancel her sponsorship of my residency status. She'd claimed it was a mistake, that we'd separated, that I was living elsewhere. The request had been denied because we were still registered at the same address, but she'd tried. She'd actually tried to get me deported. I sat there in that tiny Tokyo apartment, surrounded by the life I'd dismantled back home to build something here, and realized I'd been played from the start. The necklace box was still in my desk drawer. I took it out, opened it, looked at the diamond catching the morning light. Then I called the police non-emergency line and asked about property fraud. Update 1. So, that was a rough Christmas. Thanks for all the messages. Some of you asked what happened after I found everything. Here's the update. After I finished going through Elowen's accounts, I just waited. Didn't confront her when she got back that evening. Didn't say anything about what I'd found. Just acted normal. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. She came home around 8 p.m. with shopping bags, all smiles, talking about how she'd found the perfect gifts for her co-workers. I nodded along, made dinner, pretended everything was fine. "You okay?" she asked at one point. "You seem quiet." "Just tired," I said. "Long shift last night." She bought it, or maybe she didn't care enough to dig deeper. That night, after she fell asleep, I started planning. I'm not a confrontational person, never have been, but I'm good at solving problems, and this was a problem that needed a very careful solution. The next morning, December 26th, Elowen said she was going to meet some friends for a post-Christmas lunch. I told her to have fun, watched her get ready, watched her leave. Then I followed her. I'm not proud of it, but I needed to see this Silas guy for myself. Needed to confirm everything was real and not just my paranoia creating patterns that didn't exist. She took the train to Minato Ward. Walked 3 blocks to a new residential building, the kind with a fancy lobby and a doorman. Went inside like she lived there. I waited across the street for maybe 20 minutes. Then a guy came out. Mid-30s, expensive coat, the kind of confident walk that comes from never having to worry about money. He lit a cigarette, checked his phone, looked bored. I crossed the street, walked right up to him. "Silas Thorne?" He looked at me, assessed me in about 2 seconds, and smiled. Not friendly, amused. "Yeah, who's asking?" "I'm Vance Sterling." I expected shock, guilt, something. He laughed. "Oh man," he said, taking a drag from his cigarette. "She said you might show up eventually. Look, buddy, I don't want any drama here. Elowen and I have an understanding. If you've got a problem with that, take it up with her." An understanding. Yeah. He dropped the cigarette, crushed it under his shoe. "She told me about you months ago. Her cousin from the States, right? The one with the mental health issues. She felt bad leaving you alone after you followed her here, so she's been helping you get on your feet. Honestly, it's pretty noble of her." I just stared at him. "Wait," his smile faltered. "You're not her cousin. I'm her husband. We got married last April. I moved here in May because she convinced me it was our dream." The smile disappeared completely. Bullshit. I pulled out my phone, showed him our marriage certificate, photos from our wedding, screenshots of our joint bank account. His face went from amused to angry in about 3 seconds. That manipulative. He stopped himself, looked at the building, then back at me. She's been using you. Yeah, I said. I figured that out yesterday. We stood there for a minute, two guys who'd both been played by the same person, not sure what to do with that information. The apartment, I finally said. She's been using my money to pay for it, hasn't she? I don't know what you're talking about. The down payment. The monthly transfers. She told you it was her money, right? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. I'm going to fix this, I told him, and you're probably going to want to distance yourself before it gets messy. I left him standing there and went back to the apartment. That evening, I did something I should have done months ago. I called my parents, except I couldn't. Every time I tried, the call wouldn't go through. I checked my phone. Their numbers were blocked. Not by me. I called from a different number, a cheap burner I bought at a convenience store. My mom answered on the second ring. Hello? Mom. It's Vance. Silence. Then, Vance. Oh my God. We've been so worried. Why haven't you been answering our calls? What do you mean? We've been trying to reach you for months. You sent that text back in September saying you were happy and didn't want us bothering you anymore. And then nothing. My stomach dropped. I never sent that text. What? I explained everything. The blocked numbers, the messages, all of it. My mom started crying. My dad got on the phone, asked if I was safe, asked if I needed money to come home. I told them I couldn't leave yet. Not until I'd dealt with this properly. That night, Elowen came home late again. I was sitting at the desk, laptop open, surrounded by printed bank statements and screenshots. We need to talk, I said. She looked at the papers, and something shifted in her expression. Not guilt, calculation. About what? I held up the printout of the property payments. About the apartment you've been buying with money you stole from our joint account. About Silas. About the fact that you tried to get me deported 3 weeks after I moved here. She didn't even blink, just crossed her arms and looked at me like I was the problem. I didn't steal anything. That money was mine too. It was money I earned and sent to you for our future together. Our future? She laughed, cold. Vance, there was never an our future. This was always temporary. You were always temporary. I needed a way to stay in Japan long term, and you were convenient. So you married me for a visa. I married you because you were desperate enough to believe I loved you. And honestly, it worked out great until you started getting clingy. I waited for anger to hit, for hurt, for anything, but all I felt was this weird, calm clarity. The necklace, I said. The one I bought you. Where is it? She blinked. What? The diamond necklace. I sold my PC to buy it. I put it on your dresser Christmas morning while you were in the shower. Where is it? Something flickered in her expression. I haven't seen any necklace. I pulled up the pawn shop transaction on my phone. Dated December 25th, 2:15 p.m. A diamond necklace matching the exact description of the one I'd bought. Sold for 120,000 yen. The account tied to the transaction had her name on it. You pawned it the same day I gave it to you, I said. Used the money to buy Silas a watch. It's in the photos on your phone. She didn't deny it, just shrugged. I needed cash for his Christmas present. You'd understand if you weren't so selfish about material things. That's when I knew. There was no reasoning with her. No closure to be had. She'd constructed a reality where I was the villain for being upset about being used. I'm reporting you to the tax authority, I told her. For the property fraud, the money laundering, all of it. She laughed again. Good luck with that. You can't prove anything. I can prove all of it. I work in IT, remember? I know how to recover deleted files. I know how to trace transactions. And I know exactly which laws you broke when you used money I transferred from the States to buy property here without declaring it properly. Her smile faded. You wouldn't. I already did. I filed the report this morning, sent them everything. Bank statements, email records, the immigration paperwork where you tried to cancel my sponsorship. All of it. She went pale. Actually pale. First real emotion I'd seen from her all night. They'll seize the apartment, I said. It'll take a few days, maybe a week. But they will. And when they do, Silas is going to find out exactly how much you've been lying to him too. I stood up, grabbed the bag I'd already packed, and headed for the door. Wait, she said. Where are you going? Somewhere that isn't here. I left her standing in that apartment surrounded by the life she'd built on lies, and I didn't look back. Update 2. Hey Reddit, Vance here. First, thanks for all the support. Seriously. Reading your comments helped me realize I wasn't crazy for being angry about this situation. Second, some of you asked what happened after I filed the tax report. Here's how it all played out. After I left the apartment that night, I crashed with a guy named Colt Mercer. He's American, been living in Tokyo for about 8 years, runs a small machine repair shop in Shibuya. We met at an expat meetup a few months back, kept in touch because we're both from California originally. When I showed up at his place at 11 p.m. with a duffel bag and probably the worst poker face in history, he didn't ask questions, just made coffee and let me sleep on his couch. The next morning, I told him everything, expected him to tell me I was being dramatic, that I should have just walked away quietly. Instead, he looked at me and said, "Man, you got fucked. What's your play?" I filed a tax report on the property, documented everything, the transfers, the immigration fraud attempt, the fact that she'd been using my U.S. earnings to make purchases here without declaring them properly. Colt nodded slowly. That'll take time. Bureaucracy moves slow here, even for clear-cut cases. You got somewhere to stay in the meantime? Not really. I can't afford a hotel, and I definitely can't go back to that apartment. Stay here. I've got space. But you're gonna need to start thinking about next steps. What do you want out of this? Honestly, I didn't know. I wanted Elowen to face consequences. I wanted Silas to realize he'd been played too. But mostly I just wanted to not feel like the world's biggest idiot anymore. I want to go home, I finally said. Back to the States. Start over. Then let's make that happen. The next few days were a blur. I kept working my help desk shifts, pretending everything was normal while living out of a duffel bag on Colt's couch. Elowen tried calling me about a dozen times. I didn't answer. She sent texts alternating between apologetic and threatening. I didn't respond. Then, 5 days after I'd filed the report, I got an email from the Tokyo Regional Taxation Bureau. They were opening an investigation into the property purchase. They'd frozen the apartment pending review of the financial records. They needed to interview me as the source of the original complaint. I forwarded the email to Elowen with no message. Just the forwarded email. She called me 17 times in the next hour. I let every single one go to voicemail. The voicemails started apologetic. "Vance, we need to talk about this. You're overreacting. Just call me back and we can figure this out." By message 7, they'd shifted to angry. "You realize you're going to destroy both our lives with this, right? They'll deport you too if this gets messy." By message 12, she was crying. "Please. I'm sorry. I know I did. But you don't have to ruin everything." I deleted all of them without listening to the end. 2 days later, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. "This is Silas. We need to talk." I called back. He answered immediately. "She lied to me," he said without preamble. "About everything. The money, the apartment, you, all of it. Yeah. The tax people came by yesterday, started asking questions about the property purchase, about her income, about our relationship. I had to show them proof I didn't financially contribute to the apartment because I didn't want to get caught up in whatever fraud she'd committed. And they told me the whole thing's under investigation. The apartment's frozen. Can't be sold, can't be transferred, can't be lived in until they finish reviewing everything." There was a pause. "She's been staying with me," he continued, "at my place, and I can't. I told her this morning she needs to leave. Where's she gonna go? That's not my problem anymore." He sounded exhausted. "Look, I'm not calling to apologize or make peace or whatever. I just wanted you to know that I believed her when she said you were some distant relative she was helping out. If I'd known the truth, I would've—" "What? Not slept with a married woman?" He didn't answer. "Doesn't matter now," I said. "It's done." I hung up. The following week, I met with someone from the Taxation Bureau. Showed them everything I had: transaction records, emails, screenshots, the immigration paperwork. They were thorough, professional. Asked a lot of questions about my relationship with Eloan, about when the money transfers started, about whether I'd known what she was using it for. I told the truth. I'd thought we were building a life together. I'd thought the money was going into a shared emergency fund. I'd had no idea she was using it to buy property with someone else. They thanked me for cooperating and said the investigation would likely take another few weeks. That night, Eloan showed up at Colt's shop. I was in the back, helping him with some machine calibration, when his assistant came and said there was someone asking for me. I walked out front, and there she was. She looked awful, exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. "Vance, please, we need to talk." "No. 5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes." I looked at Colt. He shrugged, like it was my call. I walked outside with her. We stood on the sidewalk in Shibuya, surrounded by people who had no idea that my entire life had collapsed 2 weeks earlier. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am. I didn't think it would get this bad. You tried to get me deported. You stole 2 years' worth of my savings. You lied about loving me to get a visa. Which part exactly didn't you think would get this bad? I didn't mean for you to get hurt. You just didn't care if I did." She looked away. "The apartment's gone. They're seizing it. And Silas kicked me out. I have nowhere to go. That's not my problem." "Vance, no." I shook my head. "You don't get to do this. You don't get to make me feel guilty for the consequences of your own choices. You made your bed, literally, with Silas, in an apartment you bought with my money. Now you get to lie in it." "I don't have anywhere to go," she repeated, and I realized she was crying. Part of me wanted to feel bad for her. Part of me wanted to help, because that's who I'd been for 8 years. The guy who fixed things, who helped people, who said yes when he should have said no. But I was done being that person. "Figure it out," I said. "Like you should have figured it out before you destroyed our marriage." I went back inside, left her on the sidewalk. I don't know where she ended up. Don't really care. The tax investigation wrapped up last week. The apartment's been officially seized. Eloan's being investigated for fraud and potential tax evasion. I'm cooperating fully, which means I'll probably have to stay in Japan a bit longer for legal proceedings. But after that, I'm going home. Back to California. Back to my parents, my friends, my actual life. I'll be starting from zero. No savings, no car, no apartment. I'll be sleeping on my parents' couch at 26, rebuilding everything I spent 5 years working toward. But at least I'll be doing it honestly. At least I'll be free. Final update, then I'm closing this chapter for good. I'm writing this from my parents' house in Sacramento. Flew back last week. Took me 3 months to wrap up everything in Tokyo. The tax investigation, the legal depositions, getting my residency status sorted, so I could actually leave the country legally. The investigation concluded 6 weeks ago. Eloan was charged with financial fraud and tax evasion. The property was officially seized and will be auctioned off to cover the unpaid taxes and penalties. She's facing fines and possible jail time, though her lawyer's trying to work out some kind of payment plan instead. I don't know where she is now. Don't particularly care. Silas reached out once more before I left Japan. Sent me a message saying he was sorry for his part in everything, that he genuinely hadn't known I was her husband until I showed up that day. I didn't respond. What was the point? Colt drove me to the airport. Told me I had a place to crash in Tokyo anytime I needed it, that he was glad I'd gotten out when I did. We grabbed coffee before my flight, and he said something that's been sticking with me. "You know the difference between you and a lot of guys in your situation? You didn't just take it. You didn't sit there and let her keep destroying you. You fought back. That takes guts." I didn't feel particularly brave. I felt tired and broke, and kind of hollow. But I appreciated the sentiment. The flight back was long. 17 hours of sitting with my thoughts, processing everything that had happened since last Christmas. I kept thinking about that morning I found the message on Eloan's tablet, how my first instinct had been to doubt myself, to wonder if maybe I was reading too much into things. I'm glad I didn't talk myself out of what I knew was true. That's the thing about gaslighting. It makes you question your own reality so much that you'll ignore clear evidence right in front of you. Landing in San Francisco felt surreal. My parents picked me up from the airport and I just broke down in the car. All the stuff I'd been holding together for months just came apart. My mom held me while I cried in the passenger seat, and my dad drove us home in silence. I've been back a week now, living in my childhood bedroom with a suitcase of clothes and literally nothing else to my name. My mom keeps making my favorite meals, and my dad keeps suggesting I join him on his morning runs. Like physical activity will somehow fix everything. But here's the thing, I don't feel destroyed. I feel relieved. Like I've been carrying this massive weight for years, and I finally got to put it down. I spent 5 years saving to build a life with someone who was planning to betray me the entire time. That's brutal. That's the kind of thing that should break a person. But it didn't break me. It just taught me what I won't tolerate anymore. I won't tolerate being someone's backup plan. I won't tolerate being lied to about fundamental aspects of a relationship. I won't tolerate being made to feel crazy for noticing patterns of manipulation. And I definitely won't tolerate losing myself trying to fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed. Yesterday, I started putting together a new PC. Used the last bit of money I had left to buy some basic components. Nothing fancy, no custom water cooling, no RGB setup. Just functional. My buddy from high school came over to help me build it. We spent 3 hours assembling everything, troubleshooting when the RAM didn't seat right, arguing about thermal paste application techniques. When we finally got it running, he said, "Welcome back, man. We missed you." And I realized, I'd missed me too. The version of myself who had hobbies and friends and a life that wasn't centered around managing someone else's mood. The version who could spend an afternoon building a PC just because it was fun. I've been applying to jobs. Got a few interviews lined up for help desk positions at local companies. The pay's not great, but it's a start. I'll rebuild the savings eventually. Get my own place again. Figure out what life looks like when you're not trying to earn someone's love.